ready?
You can.
There and there.
Ah. Ah. Hello and welcome to another episode of SEO Fairytales. With me today is Crystal Carter, Head of SEO Communications at Wix. And when you're not working, you are quilting.
Quilting.
I'm not an English native. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I only read the word.
I could make a quilted kilt. That's a thing.
So you're quilting a kilt?
No, I haven't, but I could make you one. Would you like one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
be aware it's on camera now, though. So that's a promise. Fair enough. Or you in a canoe?
I am occasionally in a canoe. There's a place near me where you can go canoeing in a canal, and that's what we do sometimes.
That sounds like a kind of like tongue twister, like canoeing in a canal. Quilting a kilt, quilting a kilt, whatever. Let's talk about something that I can actually pronounce properly, which is technical SEO. So, you brought me an interesting challenge that you experienced and wanted to talk about that. So, what did you bring for us today?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you today about an indexing challenge that I had from a client, and they were looking at their web situation, and we had a look in Search Console. We could see that they had something like 80,000-ish URLs that they had in their sitemap, but they were only indexing about 55,000, and it was an e-com site, so they needed to make sure that the products were actually available for people to see online. And so I started where most good SEO starts, and I started with a crawl, and I had it set up on a few different tools. So I had it set up on Content King and on SEMrush, and I had it set on Ahrefs. But what the situation was because it was such a big site, the config that I had for those particular tools wasn't, they're set up for a sort of regular crawl. It wasn't catching the issue with the crawlability. It said there was a crawlability issue, but everything I diagnosed wasn't really fulfilling the issue. So I did what everyone does, and I went to Screaming Frog, and my trusty little laptop, which had never ever failed me in all my days, just could not complete this crawl. It just couldn't do it. And I thought at first it was something wrong with my laptop, or something wrong with the crawl settings, or something going on there. And then I realized that what was actually going on was that there were redirect chains. And a redirect chain is when someone clicks on a link, or someone crawls a link, and it goes to a link which is redirected to another link, which is redirected to another link, which is and on and on and on and on and on. And this is what was happening with the crawler. And so I was looking at and there's a little chart that shows you where the 301s are, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
And eventually just like, nah, I'm good.
Right. I was just like, let's stop this. What is going on here? And so I looked into it, and I found that there was only about 5 URLs that all of these redirects were coming from, and it was a couple of URLs which had some broken images. And the images were redirecting to redirects.
Effectively breaking them,
Effectively breaking them. So I couldn't complete the crawl, and all I could think was, if I can't complete the crawl, then Google can't complete the crawl, and nor would Google even they just look at this and go, this isn't working. We'll just keep going somewhere else. So the actual fix for this was pretty simple. The fix was remove the links. I have a saying sometimes with people say, "Oh, how do I fix this 404?" And it's sometimes you can just get rid of it. Like, it ain't broke if it ain't there. So we need to get rid of these links. But the actual, in order to diagnose this, what we had to do is we had to crawl until we got to a stop, and then I'd have to exclude that URL, and then crawl it again until I got to another stop, and then exclude that URL, and just add them all to a list. And in the end, we were able to get there. But yeah, it was tricky. And the client didn't believe that this was an issue, but I was like, I assure you it is. And after we cleared all of these redirect chains, we saw the indexation start to go up, because Google was actually able to finish the crawl in the same way that I was actually able to finish the crawl.
Yeah, infinite crawl spaces, fun times. But you said you set up a crawl in different tools. Why did you do it in different tools, and how did you set that up?
So one of the things that's important is all of the tools, and tools are great.
Yeah.
Google Search Console is great. And all of the tools that I listed before are fantastic. They all have different criteria. They all look at different things. So it's really important if you're trying to diagnose an issue to get a second opinion, and to check them across various different tools. Generally speaking, if you're trying to verify a tool, if you're right on all of them, then you're good. But if you see one flag on one and not on another, then you might need to get even another. You might even get
a third opinion.
So that's why I did that. And also sometimes you can set your crawl, particularly on a third-party tool, you can set them so that they only crawl a certain number of URLs. So if you have a free version of a site of a third-party tool, you might have a max number of URLs, for instance.
And then you don't get the full picture to begin with.
You don't get it. And so you might say, oh, I've got 100% on that audit tool, but you've only crawled 100 URLs, and if that's not a good representation of your URLs overall, then that's not really going to be very helpful. So you want to, when you use multiple tools, it gives you more data.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And how did you set up the tools so that did you have a hypothesis that you started with when you saw something's missing here?
Yeah, so I went through Google Search Console. Google Search Console will tell you what is indexed and what is discovered, and and you can see the difference. So if you're seeing a big difference between what's indexed and what's discovered, you can have a look at those URLs and see where some of the issues are. For this particular client, there were some other issues as well. So they had some particular page types that were, that should have been no indexed, and they needed to do that. And when we did that, that helped. But they also had these redirects issues that were coming in. So if you're trying to address, why some of your URLs are discovered but not indexed, it's important to look at these things. So yeah, I would say Google Search Console is a really good first port of call to see what URLs they are indexing and to discover any trends. So if you're seeing a trend where a certain where URLs in a certain folder are not being indexed, and there's probably something wrong with that folder.
True, exactly. Why not the rest of the site? Why is it in this part? There must be something. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Exactly. So it could be that there's something in the robots.txt that goes to that particular folder, or it could be that there's a bug on that particular.
It's interesting that you said then they fixed the no indexing, they no indexed things that shouldn't have been there, and then it got a little better which makes sense because you free up crawling resources for that. But then you still run into the redirect chain.
Right.
So that makes sense. All right, so then did you see a pattern at that point, or was it more like everything is screwed?
Yeah, so from the pattern that I was seeing for that particular one was that there were certain page types that kept showing up as being
right. So it might be something in the template of these page types.
Right.
Oh.
Right. So there was something there, and then the other thing but also the thing that was fundamentally a problem to me was that I couldn't finish the crawl.
Okay, fair enough.
And
yes.
You shouldn't be able to finish. You should be able to finish the crawl, even if it's a big site. It might take you a little while longer than a smaller site, but you should be able to finish the crawl. And if you can't finish the crawl, then Google can't finish the crawl, and nor would they want to, because if you were asking for anything from anyone, and they just kept giving you the runaround, they say, oh, talk to this person, talk to that person, talk to this person, talk to that person, and then eventually you give up. So it's important to make sure that that your crawl is accessible, that your crawl is smooth sailing. So there shouldn't be any redirect chains. There shouldn't really be any internal redirects if you can avoid them. Why are you doing that to yourself?
I mean, if you have a migration that you need to deal with, or something has been decommissioned and something else steps in, and you for some reason can't keep the URL structure because that's what you should do, I see why you might use that as a tool, but having them on accident is
it's not so good. It's not so good. And it can compromise you in a number of ways. So the redirect chains and 301s, just in general, if you have too many of them, it can slow down the page experience for users. So when someone clicks on that link, they have to be redirected to another link, and all of that time they're waiting.
And eventually the browser gives up.
Right, exactly. There's that
eventually it's like, you know what, we tried this. Right. All right, we really, really wanted you to have the experience, but someone really does not want you to see anything
that poor
here.
little dinosaur, he did his best.
Such a good thing. The dinosaur is such a good
It's
feature.
good. It's like, oh, the internet's off, but at least I get to jump over cactuses.
Exactly. Which is very similar to the process of debugging technical issues sometimes. You gotta jump over these cactuses.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, and then you figure out, okay, so it's this page type, and then how did you figure out that the redirect chain was happening?
Right. So what will happen what was actually happening, and I was looking at this. So Screaming Frog is very much like a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
The user interface is very much like a spreadsheet. And what happened was I was looking at this and I was like, okay, let's have a look at these redirects. So you go into the tab that says redirects, and then I could see that it went one, and then two, and then two, and then three, and it was just filling up. It was like redirect.
That waterfall here
right,
should not exist.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think as you go through that, you need to, if you see that kind of thing, that's a big
Yes.
red flag. And then I had to extract that. Now, one of the client was like, how do I find these in the future? I'm like, well, we can find them in the future. So, some of the tools that I set up, they'll alert you if you have a new 301. But these were historical ones, so we had to just go through them individually and find them. But yeah, and I've seen it before where sometimes these can cause server errors as well, which has another knock-on effect. If Google is seeing within Search Console, there's a report that will tell you if your server is dicey.
They're just going to be like, we're not going to topple your server.
Right.
They're just going to be touching it carefully.
Right, exactly. Or they'll just, So if Google's seeing that, then it's like, you're not as reliable a source as you could be. And there might be other sources that are more reliable. And so you just kind of need to get your act together. So it's really all it comes down to.
It's not even about that. It's more like, so we're in this weird dilemma that is like, on one hand, we want to crawl as much as we can, as quickly as we can. On the other hand, we don't want to like eat up all your resources, so you can't actually serve your actual customers, because that would be kind of not nice.
Right.
And whenever we are seeing like your server goes like, whoa, I need a minute here, and we're like, all right, we'll slow down a bit. No worries. Which is probably not what you want to happen, because especially if you have like millions of products, you're like, no, don't come back.
This is a flash sale.
Let's do this quick. And we're like, yeah, but when we do that, then. So yeah, it's in your own interest to fix that. That's
absolutely.
true.
And I've seen that happen on the other end, not to do with redirect chains, but I've seen it where someone had they were like, oh, we want to do a big Facebook campaign thing, and so they did this big Facebook campaign, sent loads of traffic, and as soon as they sent it to the site crashed, and they're like, oh, what can we do to optimize? I'm like, sort out your server, and they were like, oh, well, but we want to do this, and we want to have this picture on the ad, and I'm like, you have to sort out your server. You're literally just throwing money at nothing at the moment, and
people
in fact,
click and go to nowhere.
Exactly, and that actually does worse, more damage for you than just not having the sale in the first place.
The dinosaur is so nice. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. And you saw all of these redirects, and how did you identify where they were coming from? Because you said like it was very few URLs that caused this.
Right. So when when you look at the crawl, you'll normally see whether you're using a third-party tool or whether you're using other things. They'll tell you that that there is a redirect on that page, and then you have to go to that page and find whatever
redirect is. How do you find that then?
So there's a few different tools that you can use. On this particular one, it was an image. So it had that little broken image icon on
and
it.
You're like, I wonder.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that was also funny about it was these were not high value pages. They were just, these were older products and things. So exactly. Yeah. So they were just messing up the whole crawl just by existing. So we were able to remove so there we were able to see the images, but there's other tools that you can get that will tell you if you have lots of 301s or lots of 404s or lots of other crawl error issues on your pages. So there are a few Chrome extensions that you can get that you can use to address pages. So there's a Chrome extension that I use that where you click it and it will tell you all of your 301s and all of your 200s and all of the everything, and you can see it right there. And that's a good one if you're not like a technical SEO who has all of these licenses, or if you're not generally looking at this.
The browser has it built in. You can also go into the developer tools, open the network tab, and then you see like, ooh, interesting.
Exactly.
That's not where it should come from. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's nice. All right. And then you removed the images and the problem went away.
So we were able to remove the images, we were able to fix the links, and we were able to set up a framework where we could identify when we were creating new 301s or creating new redirect chains for the future. And
how did that work?
So that's with certain tools you can get notifications when you have issues.
So you're basically crawling the site, and then whenever you catch one that wasn't there before, you're like, hold on.
Yeah, so there's a couple of tools. So Little Warden is one. Content King is another one. Where they will notify you if things go wrong.
Nice, yeah.
So I've had it before where I had a client and we had some new devs and they were doing some stuff, and I was on the school run, right? So I'm on the school run walking to school and I get this notification that's like 500 errors, like 7,500 errors, and I was like, "What?" And I said, "Devs, you broke the blog," and they were like, "No, it's fine." And I was like, "It's not. It's absolutely not. Like I got this thing."
No, you're holding it wrong. Like I'm not.
No, I'm not. And it was really stressful. But we were able to flag it straight away. I also had another time where a dev, bless his heart, I said, "Oh, I want this," and I said I wanted like a new feed set up, and he deleted my sitemap, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, you didn't have one." I was like, "Yes, I did. Put it back. What have you done?"
I didn't change anything.
Right? No, it's like you definitely did. Like roll that back. And so yeah, he rolled it back. Thank goodness. But yeah, before Google crawled it, I was like, "Don't look, please don't look." So those tools.
Hear me out. There will be a sitemap. Right? I know, not right now.
We're just sorting it out. So we were able to flag that issue. But yeah, those, if you're not set up on one of those tools, so a lot of them will offer you with like freemium versions and things. And Google Search Console also tells you when they find them. But ideally, you don't want them to find them first, because so you want to make sure that you can
proactively monitor.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. And they can save you a lot of trouble further on, because again, if you have a dev who's changed something, then you can say change it back now before there've been 17 other changes that have happened across.
And then might depend on one each other.
Right, and then you have to unpick the whole thing. So stitch in time saves 9. All of that.
All right, yeah. Then we are back to quilting. I gotta learn something today. And
I have a LinkedIn post that's brewing about how quilting is very similar to SEO.
Oh, it's one of those like, do you know what XYZ taught me about SEO? It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get into quilting and canoeing in a canal, just to recap, so you had an issue that was brought up by a client, and then you used crawlers to figure out what was going on. The crawlers were experiencing problems. Search Console gave you a good hint, and then you identified the cause to be a redirect chain, which is always fun in games. In your case, conveniently, you could just remove the image and be fine with it. But you also made sure that doesn't reoccur by setting up monitoring with a bunch of different tools. That's really, really cool. That's a solid plan. So not only did you identify the problem, but you also worked with a bunch of tools to quickly resolve it and prevent it in the future by using monitoring. I think like not enough people are using monitoring, to be honest. Yes. Like that's a big one. All right. What a wild ride that has been. A whitewater ride in a canoe, I guess. I guess whitewater you'd probably do in a kayak, but whatever. Like, it's a boat. As far as I'm concerned, it's a boat. The only thing left for me to say is thank you so much for telling me that story. Thanks a lot for being here today with me. And it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Martin.
And for all of you out there, thanks a lot for watching again. Do leave us some comments on weird issues that you found and which tools were not helping or helping you to resolve them. Also, please like and subscribe if you want to see more of us. And stay safe, take care, and have a great time. Bye-bye.
Boosh. No?
I don't know. I was not prepared, but like I can do whatever. Like, what happened?